Welcome to TechNOW. I'm your host, John Reid, and joining us again, the VP of Homeland Security from Xerox, Charles Brooks. Charles, can you give us a bit of a perspective on where we stand in terms of Homeland Security? What's the state of the nation here?
Well, it's interesting. Homeland Security as an entity is literally only a decade old. So it's relatively a young organization, and it's gone through some sort of transformations over the years. But I think it's back in the limelight. I mean, people are realizing, I think the first and foremost issue now is terrorism. What's going on in the Middle East, and happened in Boston, happened in Ottawa. There's a real global threat, particularly through things like passports and foreign fighters and actually social media, and where Twitter could bring down, have an airplane turn around, there's a threat of a bomb. So there's a lot of issues, and that's back in focus. And I'd have to say the state of Homeland Security is probably more evolved. When it first started, our first concern was, weapons of mass destruction, chem, bio, rad, nuke, and explosives. CBRNE is what it's called, and less on cyber. Cyber was part of the discussion, but it wasn't a big focus back 10 years ago because, frankly, everyone wasn't as connected as they are now. In all of our commercial transactions, our energy, our transportation, financial, and security are all now involved with the connections of the internet or the Internet of Things and digitization. So we really have a new element to be concerned with at DHS and Homeland Security globally.
So yes, interconnections, positive side, negative side, but I always ask a simple question. What are the 2 or 3 things that we should be focusing on? We can't do everything. Given the new reality, what advice and guidance would you give in addressing the new Homeland Security reality?
Well, I think the first thing of probably concern to most of the people who viewers who watch it is identity. Identity theft and privacy. And one simple thing that everyone can do is have strong authentication, multiple authentication. Obviously, it goes back to basics, but tough passwords, and that's a starting point. And also just a general realization of the threats out there. And the fact is that anyone could be a victim. There's no such thing as invulnerability, but you have to watch, now the sophisticated phishing attacks that take place pretty much every day from banks that are not real banks or companies or governments, for ransomware. All these false things that happen if you just hit on the wrong attachment or click on the wrong website. So that's an immediate thing that most people can do. I think a second thing is collaboration. This is basically happening in the United States. Bills were passed recently for government-private sector collaboration. And because the private sector is so much further advanced in technology development and working with the consumer market, government has a lot to learn there. And they also have a lot to learn about the threats. As Target and JP Morgan, just about every company, 40% of companies were breached last year. So they need to know these threats and who the actors are, and the only way you can do that is through sharing collaboration. That requires trust and protocols, and I think we're getting there.
Now, what does that mean for my privacy? Like, I'm quite willing to sacrifice some of my privacy. As you know, Ottawa was struck, and as I understand more and more about the situation, data points are so important. So I'm willing to give up some of my data points, but there are many others who aren't. How do we deal with that, and how should we view privacy?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I mean, Vint Cerf, really the father of the internet and the chief evangelist for Google, said there's really going to be no such thing as privacy in the future. And to an extent, he's right. I mean, it's a currency. It's a question of how much we want to be connected and involved in the current world. And by being on the internet now, we've given up our privacy. By signing into an email account, we've given our privacy. But every time we open up a credit card, we give away our privacy. So, or every time we go to a restaurant and order a meal, we give our privacy. So it's a question of degrees. Again, the whole privacy discussion goes back to, how much you want to share and how strong your authentication and your guidelines are personally. And that is a decision anyone can make. And one thing you might want to do as an individual is have 2 computer accounts, one for doing all your transactional commercial work and the other for doing your private. And that's a trend going on now, and bring your own device too, is where you may have a dual capability on your device or completely separated cores, so you can do work activities and private activities separately. But it's in terms of having privacy, it's going out the door. I think just with the world we live in.
Well, Charles, again, you've given us some practical advice there. So accept the reality, address the risk situation in a very practical way, do the basics really well, and that collaboration is a key because countries have to collaborate, citizens have to collaborate in order to create this secure world which we would all like to live in. So thanks for joining us this morning from your offices in Virginia. Thank you for being a national spokesperson on Homeland Security. And we'll definitely catch you again in the near future as the situation evolves.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure, and anytime.